of the main objectives we were discussing tonight is the main business structures, the legal structures associated with the businesses, the benefits and drawbacks of these business structures. What are some of the tax implications and the steps that you need to take in order for you to register the different business forms and incorporate your companies? So remember, I'm telling you, we're approaching this series of starting and growing a business as in building a house. So I like to call the business form and structures, as we decide upon them, as your steel into your concrete structure. So that steel, on the face of it, you don't see it when you have your finishing, your nice cemented smooth area, when you put up your nice picture frames and you put in all your furnitures and nice and decorative pieces, you don't see the business structure. You don't see the steel in that business structure. But I will tell you, when you have hurricane, earthquake, or anything that landslide, it is those steels that are in your business that is going to help you to withstand whatever climate and challenges that comes. It is synonymous with the business structure. How you structure your business from day one will determine the strength and the continuity and what you have planned, the strategies to put forward to help you to sustain and weather the storm and to deal with any challenges that may come on your journey of success. So that's why it's very important. So I want to suggest to you that all business must have a legal configuration. It's where you define your rights and liabilities, everybody that is participating in that business. Whether as a shareholder, you would realize a little later, or you do it in terms of a partnership. You define the rights that you have, how you would make decisions, how you come to facilitate on a day-to-day basis and implementing your overall vision. Now, there are some decisions that are very critical, and I would just urge you guys that the technicalities that surrounds these decisions, that the experts in the field, such as a business consultant as myself, or an attorney can help you to weather that storm and chart that path. I would highly recommend, shameless plug, I highly recommend Semester Law, because I know the person is behind Semester Law, and their email address is there, which is thesemesterlaw@gmail.com, for any technicalities that you may want queries on or concern that you may want to raise as it relates to business registration and the business structure. Okay, what I'm going to go through now is some important factors that you must consider when you are formulating your idea of a business structure. What structure, what form of business to put your business idea that you have done last week or you have been thinking about. So I'm going to go through them, and then we're going to go through the various business structure and how these factors apply and which one best suits your business idea. So as we go through, you're going to go through your minds, go through your notes and see what you have suggested your great business ideas are, and see how these factors would affect which one of the business structure you would have contemplated. And that will help you to ensure that the steel support that you put in your structure, the steel support you put in your building that you're building, will withstand whatever challenges that may come based on your vision and your goal for your business. Ironically, the first factor we must look at is our vision. What you have planned for your business and how far you see your business is unique to you. I may want to dominate Jamaica, so I may want to be the only company in Jamaica that deals with mechanics. I may want to be the largest person in Jamaica dealing mechanics. That means that my domain is Jamaica. I'm focused on mechanics. Your vision may be larger than that. You want to have global impact. That's what we speak about, global impact. So you want to be the global first center of mechanics. That's your vision, and you would want to put a structure in place that matches your vision. Liability exposure. There's some business exposure that gives you unlimited liability exposure. What does that mean? That means you're no different from the business. And if somebody was to sue your business or try to recover damages, you or your business is no different based on that particular structure which you have chosen. For example, a sole trader is no different between you and that business. Your asset is assets of the business. If you did something and somebody required to call it to court, then all your assets in that business and your own personal assets will be called into question. But we will show you ways how you can mitigate some of that through insurance, such as Keyman Insurance. For a limited liability company, they suggest that a limited liability company is a different persona from yourselves. So you are protected upon that. If somebody decides that they want to sue for damages or recover damages from you, they can hold recover damages from the assets and liabilities as within the company. But we'd explore it some more. Your startup and your future capital requirements. You have to remember that if you have a vision of a large expansion, you want global impact, you want to be in Caribbean first, Caribbean best, then you may not necessarily have that startup capital to begin with. So what you might have to do is to incur or invite investors to invest in your business. Now, a lot of persons, they love starting a business is their baby. They want to hold it, they want to rock it, they don't want anybody involved in it. They don't want anybody to be a part of it. So they love 100% ownership. So control is also important to you. But I urge you, if you have big dreams and big plans, your savings and your loans that you may be able to get on a personal level may not be able to reach those plans and dreams that you have. So you may want to consider a business structure that allow you to get external investors in. And I may just say to you that a small percentage of something large is bigger than 100% of something small. So you may want to invite other investors if your dreams are as big as global impact. Your managerial ability. There are some persons who are very good, are skilled persons at what they do. So let's say you're in decorative business. We spoke about decorative pieces in houses. Let's say you're good at decorating houses. You're good at that. But then you're not so good at organization. You're not so good at marketing your skills. You may want to consider, do I have somebody in the business that is able to do those functions, and together we are able to maximize the benefit of the business potential. So what kind of business structure would help you in doing that? We're going to explore it a little bit more. Your business goals. This is somewhat linked to your vision, but a little different. You may have a vision of becoming the best, but what does the best mean? Does the best mean a large balance sheet? Does the best mean I'm making $1 billion in revenues? All of that may require some investment and personal resources in order to make you able to do so. What business structure will allow you to get the financing that you require, get investors that you require, manage the resources that is necessary in order to ensure that you are able to meet that goals, those business goals, sorry. The management of succession planning. Now, this is very big for me because of what my ultimate dream is. My ultimate dream is to surpass last generation so that the next generation can be on a better footing. Now, we can always have estate planning and we can will assets to persons, but if you want your family members, your kids, to come into the business, take it and bring it further, ensure that they always have a place for employment, ensure that the wealth remains in the family and grows, then you may want to look at a certain structure, and we'll explore the different structures to which help with business continuity and the other structures that don't. So if that is important to you, you will have to factor a certain business structure that enables you to do that. You also want to look at the cost of formation. Some business, it is very cost effective to register, such as a sole trader versus a limited liability corporation, which ensures a higher cost to register, and also the legal requirements and the fees that you may pay. in order to the different filings that you have. Maybe burdensome. There's something to look at. Also, I left this for last, but this is important. Your tax that you pay as the various business form and how those taxes affect you is also important. Like for argument's sake, you are a sole trader. Remember, I made mention that as a sole trader, you're no different from your business. It means that you may not pay corporation tax, but you may pay income tax. So they're going to tax you as if you were the business, and you'd have to do your own filing as an income tax. So all those things we will get into and see how best to fit your business idea that you came up with last week and that you have been pondering about, and see what best business structure fits those ideas. Because we want persons to match the business ideas with their vision, match the business ideas with what their plans are and their strategies are, to ensure that they're able to maximize the benefit of those ideas, maximize the benefit of their plans, to ensure that whatever challenges that come, if they may, they're able to withstand that, be in the steel, in the concrete structure. Let's look at the popular ones, and there are more. I'm not probably going to list them, but there are more. The three that we focus on tonight is your sole trader, your partnerships, and your limited liability. Now, there are others such as societies, investment clubs. You may have the cooperatives, so that the credit union and stuff like that. You have different types. You have joint ventures, but we'll focus on these basic three because these are the most popular ones that have been used in Jamaica. And I'm sure that most of your ideas can fit into any of these three structures. Are we clear so far? Everybody understand? Good, wonderful, wonderful. So we don't want to leave anybody behind. This is so important that I want everybody to understand, because I want at the end of this, we're supposed to have 200 businesses, successful businesses running. And then you guys can spare me some discount when I come by. All right, so let's look at sole trader. The sole trader is the most simple, most popular form to this date. And as the name implies, you are the business is owned by one person and is managed by one person. You are able to employ somebody to work with you, but just know that all the debts and liabilities and all the different things that may come from you employing that person or working with that person, it is your expense. It is your exposure, because you are the person that is registered on that business name. Now, I give you an example. I have an uncle that has a lawn care business, and he records it. Well, he lives overseas, but he has a lawn care business, landscaping business, and he registered as a sole trader. He's the only person that is working in it. But time to time, when the job gets large, he may have other persons help him along, doing the commercial landscape, they're doing the snow, doing the block lane and stuff like that. He may have other persons working with him. And then all the income that he gets from that, minus all the expenses, he pays that. He is liable to that. So if something goes wrong on the particular site that he's working, he's the person that is liable for that. That is some of the concerns of a sole trader. But you will see that there are some benefits later when we discuss that. Now, what are some of the benefits? For a sole trader, it is simple, it is easy. In Jamaica, we have what we call a super form. They call it a super form because if you're registering a partnership, a limited liability, or a sole trader, you use this one form. It's called BRF1. Now, this form, let's say it is less complicated for sole trader, but all it means is that the sole trader only fill out certain sections of the form. A person's going to use the form for partnerships and limited liability, they may not tell you that the form is simple and less complicated, because there are other areas that you may want to fill out. But for the sole trader, it is less sections that you're filling out. So I guess that means it is less complicated. For the profit incentives, You have to remember that I said that you're no different from the business. So let's just say you have a job, you make $1,000, minus all your expenses, your motor to get there, your oil, stuff like that, your transportation, your administrative costs. After you have minus all of that, then your income that you have left, you're going to pay tax on that income when you're filing it. And for your chargeable income, you pay 25% if it is below a certain amount and 30% if it's above that 6 million. In Jamaica, we have that kind of tiered income structure. For persons who are working in organization, it's the same type of structure here. So your decision-making authority. Another benefit, as I said, you're no different from the business. You own 100% in the business. If you're somebody who likes control, remember we said control was one of the factors, you can chart where you want the business to go. As in the case with my uncle, if he wants to cut this lawn this way, as long as the customer is okay. If he wants to cut the lawn the very next day, as long as the customer is okay with that. If he wants to buy a larger equipment to deal with the commercial part of the business, he doesn't have to consult anybody. He has the autonomy over making every decision. If you're somebody who likes that, then maybe a sole trader is fitting for you in terms of your vision. Now, you have minimal legal regulations to go through. At the company's office of Jamaica, we call it the company's registrar. You don't have to file a lot of these documents with the registrar. But however, you do have to file your income tax at the tax office of Jamaica, TAG as we call it. For the other business structures, they have a lot more filings to be done. So we will get into that a little later. Here's some of the drawbacks to sole trader. I made mention to you of the unlimited personal liability. If somebody wants to sue you for any malpractices, any wrong job that you have done, you are liable for it unless you can prove that it wasn't your negligence and you are within law to what you have done, but you are liable. So most persons, when they operate as a sole trader, they tend to have insurance, such as a key man insurance and specific insurance that geared towards the business that they're doing. Now that increases your costs on the back end, because for you to have key man insurance and other content insurance and other type of insurance products, that increases your costs on a yearly basis. But I would urge you, if you choose to do this business structure, it becomes very important. So you will not to be able to lose some of the valuable assets that you would have earned over the years. You have limited access to capital. Remember now that if you are the business, you're 100% owner of this business. Another investor can't own the business because you own it. So what is the investor buying into? They're not buying into you, they're not buying into the business, they don't own anything. The only thing they can do is probably to lend you the money. So you have like a lending arrangement and you pay by the person, but the person don't have any safeguard outside of maybe a lending bilateral agreement signed between attorneys. So you've realized that if you can't get access to the money based on your credibility and your financial standing, then it limits your access to income or much needed capital to further your business. As in the case with my uncle, who has a lawn care business or the business, his financial standing is what gives him money. So if you want to buy that large equipment to deal with the commercial aspect of his business, he has to take it from his savings or his personal loan. That is one of the drawbacks. You may also suffer from limited skills and capabilities. Remember, I said to you that you may not be always have all the skill set that is needed. Remember, we are not superhumans. So we are great in some things and we're not so great in some. The not so great skill set that we may need, we may have to import it, may have to employ it, but it may not be readily available to you as it were in a partnership or a limited liability where you can easily source them. Another drawback to a sole trader is a lack of continuity. Now, if the sole trader dies, the business dies with the sole trader. So if like me, who generational wealth is important, then this may be a drawback. So the other business structure may afford the opportunity for you to pass on the business and the business continue being a going concern even after death. And I just want to caution here, a lot of persons believe that the death of the business goes when the person dies. Under law, the death of an individual, the debt still remains. So your estate would have to settle all debts. So just in case you're saying, well, I die, I leave business assets to my kids can use the business assets and continue. If there was a debt associated with the sole trader, then the estate or the person he or she has willed those assets to will have to settle those debts before it goes forward. So that's why business continuity is a concern for a sole trader. Sometimes you may feel isolated, as generally all entrepreneurs do. You're the only one that's working sometimes. You have to contact a partner to work with you, or a person to work with you to finish the particular job or concern. So you might find that you feel alone. The idea generation only comes from you. So if you don't pray to God and have all of these wisdom deposited in you, you may miss some opportunities. Versus if you had a group of persons, group of investors for you to speak with, then sometimes two minds are better than one. Let's turn over to partnership. Am I clear with the sole trader? Did we understand the benefits and drawbacks to the sole trader? Are you starting to see how your business idea would fit into some of those, the sole trader structure? I hope that it was clear. Let's continue. Partnerships is an association of two or more persons coming together for the purpose of making profit. Now, in a partnership, the co-owners or partners, just as if you were in a marriage, their share of the business and assets is determined based on your agreement. So each partnership has an agreement. We call it a partnership agreement. You can write, this partnership agreement is going to stipulate how the assets are supposed to be funded, how the share of profits is supposed to be shared, among other things. How do you wind up and dissolve that partnership? Can it be dissolved? Do you have to sell back the assets to the remaining partners, or can you get another partner and continue as see fit? No, that is dependent on what is in the agreement. When I say speak with a consultant or an attorney, such as the semester law, which will give you best advice as how to structure the terms and conditions of such a partnership. What are some of the types of partners? Now, these are some 4 basic types of partnerships. One, a general partner, is where all persons are active in a day-to-day business. Now, most of us, when we think about partnerships and partnership agreement, we normally think about everybody just sharing into the whole mix, into performing the thing. This person does that, the other person does the other thing, and we come together and make beautiful music. That is what is referred to as a general partner, where everybody shares into the business, everybody shares into the liability. So if we're making the music and we go out there and nobody likes the music, everybody is being negatively affected by the audience not liking the music. However, there are some other type of partners where you have, for instance, you're a sleeping partner, which takes no part into the business. So in case of making music, this person just provide the money to buy the equipment, to buy the guitar, the piano, and stuff like that. This person does not involve in making the music. He's just what we call a silent partner. Just give the money and remain in the shadows. We have what is also called a limited partner. Now, under what we call the Limited Partnership Act, there are some persons who generally is the person with a large buck. large pockets. They tend to be a limited partner where their partnership exposure is limited up to the amount of money that they put in. Now, for this partnership structure to work, one person has to be a general partner. And the reason for this is, if anything goes wrong into the business, there needs to be at least one person that is held liable. So in a partnership, what's happening is that if you have limited liability partners, you need to have at least one general partner, such that when you have exhausted the money to recuperate any damages from the limited liability partners, then you can tackle the general partner and his assets. You have a salary partner, which takes a salary. It may be on the letterhead, but he does not involve in the running of the business. He doesn't vote in running of the business. He's just somebody who is a part of the whole operation, and he collects a salary, and that's it. Now, in your business idea, you must decide, am I going to be the general partner? Are we going to have all general partners? Or are we going to be a limited partner? And then we have other person being a general partner. And if you have general partner who is willing to substantiate or stand up, putting their personal assets and putting their self out in the open for any repercussions. That person, if the person don't have the pocket, the D pocket, then you are open up yourselves. And you may want to have a percentage of ownership, a share of profit to substantiate the risk that you are facing. Those are some of the things that you want to take in consideration when you're doing partnership agreement. Because if I am going to be a general partner in a partnership agreement, then maybe my share of profit for taking on that increased risk, and then I should be compensated for that. And then a limited liability, a limited partner, may say, but I'm putting up all the money, or I'm putting up most of the money. Why are you wanting the larger share? And the response to that is, yeah, you're putting up larger money. No, but if there's anything that should happen, and we have surpassed the money that you have put up, or what the business has, we have surpassed all the insurance that we have put up, then I am on the hook for the remainder to fund whatever damages or concerns maybe before the court. So that has to count for something. So those are kind of negotiations that you want to get into when you're thinking about partnership, and not just holistically signing on to whatever partnership structure that you would have decided. What are some of the benefits to partnership? So you realize now that this partnership agreement is very technical and very involved and critical. And that's why I urge you to have a consultant or an attorney to help you along those agreements, because you don't want, when things go good, we're all good. But when things are going bad, you want to be able to protect yourself. And secondly, you may be giving up some benefit by being a general partner that you don't realize that you need to be compensated for. So you're in the business day to day, you may have somebody who just provide the money and they're silent, and you're not being compensated for that. So those are kind of things that you need to discuss when having your partnership agreement. Okay, so what are some of the benefits of having a partnership? It's simple to create, just as sole trader, very simple to create. You may have persons with complementary skills. Now, I know a lot of persons start partnership because of friendship. We're all friends. We went to school together. We all did the same thing. We all were economists, or we all were financial persons, or we all were teachers. But you might want to step back a bit and say you're going to do partnership with persons that are accountable, responsible, and have complementary skills. Yes, you guys can have all similar skills, like if you're a great teacher and you're going into distant teaching or private teaching or tutoring and tutoring, but you might want to have one of the teachers who are good at administrative. You may want to have one of the teachers who are good at marketing. All for you guys, if you're not good at some of those other skill sets, then you realize that you would have to pay for it. So I'm just saying, look beyond just friendship and closeness of knit and ties, and look for complementary skills. And when you have the complementary skills, it helps to bolster a very solid and a good and profitable partnership. The division of money. Your partnership agreement will set out how the monies will be shared. Now, after the money is shared, just like with a sole trader, it's being taxed at the individual level. So you pay out all the expenses and the money that is left, you share according to the agreement. So if somebody's supposed to get 60% of the share of profit, that person gets 60% share of profit, and then you pay associated tax around that. Somebody's supposed to get another 30%, you pay the associated tax around 30%, and then 10%, they pay the 10%. That's how it works. It's like a pass-through effect. It's a pass-through vehicle. If 4 or 5 of you guys coming together, and you can go, and the partnership allow you to go up to 20 in some areas, larger than that as it relates to some areas such as attorney and accountant can go up beyond 20. And Jamaica, generally 20. So let's just say you have 20 persons coming together. You realize that your financial standing and another 19 persons is larger capital base for you to embark on to achieve your dream. Now, together, you pull those funds together, you have a larger capital base, you're able to reach more, grow more, be scalable. Remember, I said that business must be scalable, sustainable, and you must put in your time and all those other wonderful things. So when you get a larger access to capital, then you're able to scale up your business and you're able to ensure your sustainability into that business. And a larger number of partners tend to do that. You can attract a limited partner. Remember, I said to you that at least one partner needs to be a general partner, and then all others could be a limited partner under the Limited Partnership Act. A limited partner can bring in funds, and that will also help you to increase your reach and, of course, deal with debt and other expense items. Just like a sole trader, you face little regulatory concerns, but you still have to do your filing of taxes as it relates to your TAJ filings. The flexibility, you have some amount of flexibility, but not as flexible as the sole trader. Because remember, the sole trader now, you make all decisions. You are the boss unto yourself in that business. However, with a partnership, you have to bring the ideas for discussion and decision to be made among partners. Now, on the flip side, with a large partnership base, you have access to this large pool of investment for you to access your dreams and reach your goals. However, with a large number of persons sitting around a table to decide what to do, you know how that gets. Sometimes a certain set of persons want to do this and another set want to do that, and to come to an agreement may take a longer time. I just urge you to make sure that if you're having a large number of shareholders, that you have persons who are objective, well-thinking, and able to ensure that decisions are made in the quickest and most efficient way. I always have a principle that is not important to be right, but it's important to get the job done. If you have persons who are not of that ilk and of that mindset, they have to be right. You have to choose what they're saying. You have to go down this route. They always have to get their way. If you have those persons, no matter their complementary skills, no matter how great they are, no matter how much money they're putting up, you may be stuck at making decisions and slow in going through and implementing strategy that is needed for you to improve and making money, because they have to get their way. Taxation is also very important to partnerships. Like I said to you, you are being taxed at individual levels are passed through, just like a sole trader. So you will face your chargeable income tax below $6 million, you will pay your 25%. And of course, above $6 million, you will pay your 30%. Same as if it were an individual in different working for someone. What are some of the drawbacks to your partnership? You are liable individually if you are the only general partner, and you're also jointly liable with the other partners. And if you're a general partner, then you have unlimited liability, as I said. But a limited partner would only be liable up to the amount of money that they put in. You're able to accumulate capital. However, it is capped at the 20 persons, except if you were attorney and accountant, as I said. Now, disposing of your share of interest, I would say, can be difficult, but depending on what you have in their agreement. So most partnership agreements will have a clause that ensures that if you add your 30% ownership into this partnership, for argument's sake, then you would have to go to the person who had the 60% and the 10% and say, I am offering my 30% for sale, and you'd have to work out what is your fair market value for those interests. And then you'll work out that price, and the existing partners will buy it from you. Your agreement can set it out like that. Generally, you can't just go to any willy-nilly person and say, I'm selling my partnership interest to you. The other partners would have to agree with you to say, okay, we're going to include that person into the partnership going forward, and your partnership agreement must allow for that. If it doesn't allow for that, then you have to sell it to them. And let's just say you want to sell. You're in a cash crunch, or you no longer want to do this business, so you want to cash out, and they don't have the money to pay you, then you'll realize that you're kind of stuck in that situation. So that's why it is seen as a drawback. And while we're on the topic, if you want to leave because of there is some personal conflict, some personal problem with one of the partners, then that, of course, makes it a little difficult if your agreement doesn't set out how you're to do that. Now, another drawback is this. Let's just say one of the partners decide, let's say you're all general partners, and one of the partners decide that they're going to do something with the partnership name, or get into some kind of transaction with another company. You're all on the hook for that. Unless you can negotiate yourself out, you're all on the hook for that. Let me give you an example. Let's just say you've decided to buy company vehicles in this partnership, but upon deciding that, you said, we want to keep it in the $5-6 million region, so we're going to buy some Honda Civic. No, this partner decided to go and sign some agreement to buy BMWs. And they went and buy the BMW with the partnership money, or signed the agreement. You guys are all on the hook for buying the BMWs and not the Honda Civic. And that's what we refer to as the agency problem with partners. So you have to be careful who you're making partners, and you have to be careful of the integrity of your making partners, and allow your partnership agreement to spell out how you deal with situations like that. Before I go on to the other structure, I want to ask if we are clear on the partnership agreement and how does it fit into what you guys had planned based on your business ideas that you would have had. Do you see how a partnership can help that business idea? Okay, and what seems to be clear? No, if it's not clear enough, state it in the chat. State your concerns, because I want everybody to understand, and I want everybody to start forming, whether it is their sole trader, whether it's their partnerships, and whether it's their limited liability, because we must, I'm not even saying we can, we must increase our wealth and increase our standing. All right. So the limited liability, this is what most, some persons are familiar with when we talk about business. they're saying, okay, I want to have a LLC. For persons who is overseas, they want an LLC, they want a limited liability company, all these things. Now, what does it really mean? Now, limited liability company offers some protection to the shareholders. Just as in the case on the Limited Partnership Act, where the persons invest their money and their money that is where the exposure stops. In a limited liability company, persons can only lose the money that they're investing unless the director/owners of the company has defrauded the company or commit some amount of fraud using the company. Then we may get behind what is called the veil of incorporation. The attorneys online and the legal minds would not use that jargon. You get beyond the veil of incorporation. Just like a bride, where the bride has the veil, basically what they're saying is that if there's some fraud that occurs, or a director or a /owner commits some fraud and hide behind that veil of incorporation, say that, okay, I'm a limited liability, you can't touch me, no. Well, the law affords certain route for you to lift up that veil and to see the person for who they are and be exposed. That's why they call it beyond the veil of incorporation. Legal minds that is on here would be very excited that I use those legal jargons. All right. So what are other characteristics? Most importantly, what afford you the protection is that a company is a legal entity, is a separate person from you, the individual who have invested in that company. What do I mean by that? The law, under law, it treats you as something different from you. So it takes on its legal persona. I know it's hard to comprehend, but that's basically what it is. You have invested in something and you're giving life to a legal entity, something that's totally different from you. Now, you may have senior directors and senior persons making decisions into the business. Shareholders put up their money and they buy into shares. There are different types of shares. We won't expound on it for time, but you have ordinary shares, which are the lowest ranked level of shares, but it does give you voting rights and level of ownership. If it's only ordinary shares, you give out in the company. You may have something that's called preference shares. Preference shares has a little higher ranking than ordinary shares, and it also gives you some level of ownership as well and voting rights for some. And then you have different classes of shares. You can have different class of ordinary shares, class A, class 1, and you can stipulate on the form what the different classes of shares mean. Because you can have a class A that says, okay, you get a share of profit, but you have no voting rights. And class B says, okay, I have no share of profit, but I have, or less share of profit, but I have voting rights. So you may have different stuff like, but this is beyond the scope of the series. We're really trying to say you can form your limited liability company. For me, keep it plain and simple. If there's no need to be extravagant or technical, you can just have only ordinary shares being listed and give both ordinary share, voting rights, and share of profit. Simple. Okay, so just like with the limited liability partnership, you can only lose the amount of money you put up. Same thing for ordinary shareholders. Commonly used for persons who are trying to make profit. You can also have a company limited by guarantee. Now, I made mention of this because it is there. I just want the person to be aware of it, even though we are not focusing on non-profit organization. I just put it there just for education purposes. So if you have school or stuff like that, or a non-profit organization, sometimes they can have a company registered a limited liability by a guarantee. What it simply means is that upon winding up, upon closing off that business, if the business has any debt outstanding, then the shareholders or persons who are involved in this company would decide that they're going to clear the debt. So you're only on the hook when you're clearing the debt or upon winding up. So it's just to show persons who may want to be creditors to this company that these persons are here. Form it by guarantee. I'm guaranteeing that I'm going to pay the monies that this company owes. Because most of these companies are non-profit organizations. So that kind of guarantee would help them. All right, so what are some of the benefits from a limited liability company? As the name suggests, you're only liable for the amount of shares that you have in that business. So your liability is limited versus the partnership arrangement, where if you're a general partner, you have unlimited liability. If you're a sole trader, your liability exposure is unlimited. And by liability exposure, I mean whatever damages, whatever concern, whatever challenges, you're on the hook to pay that. In the limited liability scenario, you're only liable or called upon to pay based on whatever is in the company. So your value in the company is what's going to be used to settle these debts. Succession planning, perpetual succession planning, remember that is important to me, intergenerational wealth. The continuity is important. In the limited liability, you have that continuity. All you have to do is to pass the shares to your persons who you want to pass it to, or sell the shares you want to sell it to. Now, there are ways to do that. We won't get into that right now, but there are ways to do that and to make it tax efficient. But it does help with business continuity. So if you die, the business can continue. Business always remain a going concern. Acquiring capital. Because persons or investors can easily buy shares into the company, or you register these shares as their own, then you have a vast opportunity to increase your capital for the much needed growth that you require. I sure would have seen many of us, companies going public. That means they're offering their shares to the general public on the stock exchange, and we'd have invested in them. But before they went public, there were private companies that started at a limited liability, operated for a while, and that is the area in which we are operating here for the next 6 weeks, where we are private limited companies, and we're going to bolster that. So can you imagine if we grow to a particular level and we see a company want to acquire in the United States, then we can go to Jamaica Stock Exchange and say, you know what, we want to list 20% of ownership to the general public, and that money will use to acquire a company in the United States or even Europe. That means that your scalability is enormous with a limited liability company. It is only legal person, so it affords you some of the exposures and sued by other person. You're able to protect yourself and your personal assets away from that. As in the sole trader scenario, your house may not be protected. So let's say you have started a business and you have your house as the only asset that you have outside of the business. And then your liability exposure goes beyond the asset that you have in the bank account and stuff like that. Somebody may put a charge against your house and put you in a difficult scenario. With a limited liability, that's out of the question. There are other ways, like I said, they can go beyond the veil of incorporation, but for the normal course of standard, your assets, personal assets, is different from the assets of the business. But what are some of the drawbacks? Now, in the sole trader, you don't pay a corporation tax. That means it's not a separate legal entity from you, so you don't pay a separate tax up there. All tax that you pay is at your individual level. In a partnership arrangement, is a similar structure where whatever your share of profits within that partnership, you're being taxed at that level that's applicable to you. Now, in a corporation, because a corporation is a separate legal entity, the corporation has to pay its own tax. And that's why it's called corporation tax. Then the corporation pays its own tax. What is left, we call it residual or net income, what is left, is that the profit that they're going to share. Oh, they either retain the profits, keep it in the business, or they pay it out in terms of what we call dividend. Now, when they pay that and you get that dividend now, then you are then taxed at your income level now, because it now becomes an income to you. So you're then taxed at that level. So that's what we call it creates an idea of being taxed twice. However, the accountants and experts in the field will tell you there are ways for you to minimize legally the amount of taxes that you pay. The administrative burden that you may go through in limited liability is enormous for many. And that's why you have to probably have your in-house accountant, or you outsource it, because you have a lot of filings to be done at the tax office. You have a lot of filing to be done at the company's office. So, and that is costly sometimes and time consuming. So that's also a drawback. And if you don't file some of these paperwork, there are penalties associated with it, and you don't want to not be able to continue. Like if you're not in compliance, what we call your tax compliance certificate, your TCC, and most person may hear about TCC, you may be able to get your TCC, which for most operations, especially as it relates to banking relationships, you need your TCC to be up to date in order to do some sort of business arrangement. But that is why it is very important to have proper persons, keeping abreast, well-organized persons to deal with your tax administrative ideas and requirements. So you have government regulation. We can't get through all of them, so I'm just going to list a few. But if you for greater detail, you can visit this website here. It gives you a good enough idea of some of the regulation that you have to adhere to. One in which you have to file your annual returns. And of course, filing your annual returns, whether it be a 19A form, you pay $5,000, whether 19B, you pay a fee of $2,000. Now, in your annual returns, it's basically to give information about your business, and you do it on an annual basis. So you may need to talk about whether they were changing your address, changing your directors, changing your company secretary. Those different changes you have to record it at the company registrar, and they have to be aware of it. So, and how you file it on the anniversary or on the year-end date, and you will continue filing it on those dates. If whatever form you have done is beyond the 28 days of when you had signed it, then you may need to redo it, or else they probably would not accept it. And this just goes through the other requirements that you may have for a limited liability company. Now, what are the next things that a lot of persons don't pay attention to is that you must hold an AGM. That's called an annual general meeting. If you have shareholders, the shareholders must meet and discuss the business operations. And for some, you may record the minutes of that meeting to say what was discussed, what changes were made, what decisions were made. Sometimes it could be just a 1 or 2 page thing that we'll discuss, but it's something to show that you're having that. And one of the reasons for doing that is that there are certain rights that a shareholder has under the Companies Act. Right and access to information. So that's why you have an AGM, because as a shareholder, somebody can't eliminate you from knowing what's going on in the business. They have to inform you. They have to tell you what's going on in the business. They have to provide or give you access to the financial statements to see what's happening. So that's why AGM affords those kind of things. If a director did something without disclosing to other directors or owners that they did something, then you can set aside that whatever transaction that they did if it was not in the normal code. There are some other rights you have. As in the case with the partnership agreement, remember I stated that the partnership as this agency problem where a partner can enter into an agreement with somebody and then you're on the hook for it. In the limited liability structure, because there's recourse under the Companies Act, there's a much easier way for you to deal with something like that, because you can set aside any contract that the director did not disclose, or the board can actually bring to question that director and ensure that that director, there's some level of recourse. Now, if you don't have your AGM filings and stuff like that, you have a penalty of $50,000 to pay. So you realize that a lot of these requirements, they're necessary to protect you. And if you don't do it, there's a cost associated with it. So it is more involved in terms of the fees and the paperwork, but it also has its benefits of giving you access and stuff for the access to capital and some of the other stuff that we have discussed earlier. That's why a lot of people like it. Now, registered office notice, if you're going to change your office and registered office, you have to inform them, and there's a fee of $3,000. Why is this important? If you change your business operation, you move from the location and you don't inform the company's registrar, they're going to send you information as it pertains to your company to the address they have on file. And under law, or under the Companies Act, if the registrar sends you information, they consider it received once it goes to the address that they have on file. I'm sure many of us back in the days, but we didn't have mailing address and we have to go to the PO boxes. You know that the post office, once somebody sends you a letter to the post office, it is considered delivered. Trust me, in law, there are loopholes. So just make sure that if you're going to change your company's office, I know we don't like the forms, but it helps you in case they're trying to communicate with you, maybe something important. So you may want to ensure that you inform them of the change in your registered office. Similar thing for your banking information. If you have a bank account under the business name and you're changing your registered address, inform the bank so that the bank can be able to communicate with you effectively if they're not going to use email and other means of communication. Now we're going to go to the steps to record and register business. All right, I see in the chat here that Erica is asking if companies that are private are required to keep AGM as well. Yes, you're required to keep a meeting and record that meeting and submit, whether you're a private or a public company. As I said, it is a way to protect all shareholders, to ensure that information has reached shareholders. And it's not just for public company make public, but it's to ensure that under the rights of shareholders, you have a right to access information. So if an AGM is being kept or information is being circulated and don't reach you, you have your rights and different remedies that you can seek under that. And it's very important. All right. So we go to steps to record and register your business. Now, your business name and registering your company has to be recorded at the Companies Office of Jamaica and placed in the public records that people can access for a fee. If you don't register your business and you're operating, that is illegal. You're operating illegally. So I know that nobody on here is going to operate no business and not register the business. I know sometimes to start up, you look at the cost. You might say, why am I doing this and not to be sure of the continuity of the business and all those wonderful things? But because we're going to push out 2,000 sustainable, profit-oriented businesses, I know you make back the money. So we don't want to do anything illegal here. We know you're going to make multiples of that. So I urge you, if you're going into business, please register the business and the business name. It just adds that credibility to it. And it also adds to you the ability to make money. Okay, for a sole trader, let's just say I am Zedin Semester and I'm recording a sole trader. I can record a sole trader as Zedin Semester, you know. Or I can say Zedin Semester trading as the best consultant. Not that they will give me that name, but I'm just saying. Zedin Semester, best trading as the best consultant. Now I have to register the trading as name, that business name, the best consultant. Now that business name, it adds to your credibility. It makes your clients looking a little bit more, makes you more noticeable, and it also allows you to do greater business and also have your different bank accounts and financial transactions a little more easier. So if you're going to start a sole trader, I would say register a trading as name that will help you to go over some of those hurdles. A partnership can also register another name other than the partnership names that you guys have come together with. And of course, you have to do the similar thing by recording that name. Company is the same thing. Individuals is the same thing. So the steps. These are some of the benefits that I already spoke about. Access to loan, grants, contract, banking account. When you investor confidence, your clients want to do business with you. Now in Jamaica, which is kind of unique, we have one super form. It is the BRF1. That is a form that we record all businesses on, whether it's a sole trader, partnership, or a limited liability company. Now, I think when they came up with it, it was to help with the ease of registration and help with the ease of doing business. Now, it did improve our investors' confidence, and it also improved ease of doing business. Jamaica moved up in the ranking. But associated with that is that it now reduces the time before you usually have to go to the different government agencies to get an NIS, get your NHT information. Now there's one super form, you get everything one time. So within that 4 days of registering, once everything goes well, you get your TRN, you'll get your NHT, NIS number, everything one time. So that has improved the way of doing business. But what it also does is that it creates, for some persons to tick and check boxes, it creates a little comprehension, a little complexity to go with it. But like I said, if you have experts and persons to help you along, then it shouldn't be so difficult. Other documents that they may ask you for is to verify your place of address or your current place that you want to do business. They may ask you for your TRN and government IDs for you to register that business name. If you're running a business that requires a professional certification, such as engineering business, they're going to ask you for your engineer certification and your different work permits. That's because if you're going to have that sort of business, the company registrar will want to know that you're qualified to do it. You don't want to be that developer that we saw in the news that don't have any permits, that don't have any license, but is taking people money. So you want to be able to have the necessary license and registration. They're going to ask you for it. And I suggest that maybe his business was not registered as a developer business, because if it were, then the company registrar would have asked for some of these documents to be produced. And if you don't have the documents, then there's something called a statutory declaration form, which your attorney can help you with. If you want to incorporate now a limited liability company, there are some things that you can reserve the name for 90 days before you go through the entire process. Now, if you're sure you're going to do it, then I would say you can go ahead and reserve 90 days. I would suggest you do everything one time, unless you're in a far rush and you want to make sure this name is so important to you. And once you get the name, you just want to secure the name, and then you use the 90-day period to ensure that you ensure that all the other T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Then you can do that. But for me, if you are certain about, wait till you have everything and just go do one time, because you're going to incur time to go out there, or you're going to incur attorney fees and consultant fees in order to get it done. So just be sure about what you're doing before you do it, rather than reserve the name. But of course, I understand why you want to reserve the name. You don't want anybody to, because these things change daily. So I may say I want to call some a company ZN Inc. or ZN Enterprise of Global Consultants. And then that name is clear. I did a name search. I paid for a name search. I did a name search, and name is not there. And next week, somebody names again decide to have that business name. When I go back, then that name is gone. And that name has been important to me because I pushed it through my proof of concept. I started to use it, I started to tell my friends about it, I started to tell people about it. Then you might see that that becomes a challenge. If those things are important to you and those things may be a risk, then you can register your, pre-register your name within 90 days. Now, the super form, like I said, we give you the NIS, TRN, and your tax compliance cert is your TCC. For those persons who are eligible for collecting GCT, then it also gives you your GCT number and other government agencies requirements. It also gives you, it also requires that all directors must sign the forms and produce their information, government IDs and stuff like that when you're doing your registration. Your incorporation document must also be there. Your articles of incorporation would include your name, where the registered office is, the share capital that I said you want to use. Earlier, I made mention that you can have different type of share, ordinary share, preference share, you can have different classes of share. I said, if it don't require you to get so technical, you can keep it simple and just say you have ordinary shares. And later on, if you decide to want to vary the rights of different shareholders, then you can go back and do a supplementary form and sign in to change that. But just to start, I say keep it simple and nice and easy for you to ensure that you get the job done. Now, the 1A form has to do with profit-making institutions, and the 1B form is non-profit companies. So for on here, we're going to get most of 1A forms that will be signed up in your article of incorporation, because we're doing it for making profit, correct? And in that application form, or those forms, what will happen is that you have to state whatever restrictions you want to have on the shares. So some persons will tend to say, similarly to a partnership, where you may say you can only sell back the shares back to existing partners. In a limited liability company, you can also stipulate that in your shareholders agreement to say that if the shareholder wants to sell the shares, you first have to make it available to the existing shareholders. And why that clause may be important is because you don't want the person to go and sell the shares to a third party which you're not comfortable working with. Because remember, it's a working relationship. Let's just say they want to sell it to somebody who is quarrelsome, who is not, don't consider business etiquettes and stuff like that. If you go ahead and allow the person to sell to that person, then it may create a problem in going forward. So you might want to put in that clause to restrict how they may sell the shares, who they may sell the shares to, and who they may offer the shares to first. Okay, let's go to, oh yes, and of course I did mention that all principals must have the government IDs and all the necessary associated documents to prove who you are and to also ensure that you are in compliance. And of course, when you're finished with all of that, they tend to give you the certificate of incorporation stamped, and I guess you have to pay for stamp duty, of course. I think it was about $500, but we get to that. within 4 days, you are up and ready to go. Now, the cost of incorporating a company is $24,000. And like I said, you pay a $500 for them to stamp it. Now I'm going to pause here just to make sure that all persons are understanding. Is everybody okay so far with the information? All right, there is a raised hand. You can go ahead.
Great evening again, everyone. Great evening, brother Sinister. So, my question is, what if you are only distributing a product and you're not the creator? How would you register that business?
Okay, so your business is just selling a particular product and nothing else but just that product.
Correct.
And you don't have the rights to distribute that product? Or you do have the rights?
Do have the rights, but you want to
Okay.
register the company for you to be a distributor.
Okay, so you can register the company as a sole trader, which you are the only person distributing it. Because
Okay.
it's just you doing the product. I don't know the scale of where you want to take it. Remember, there are some limitations to doing it as a sole trader. But if you want to do it as a limited liability company, you can employ underneath you. You can employ sales rep. You can employ persons to take your administrative calls, then the follow-ups. You can take persons to ensure that they're managing your receivables, money that you're supposed to collect. And this product you're getting from somebody, you may also employ somebody to ensure that you're paying these persons. Now, let's just say for future, you wanted to expand from the one product. If you were a sole trader, then you know that there are limitations to how you can expand, because expansion may require you to have additional capital. So a limited liability, if you want to expand beyond the one product, then you may want to register as a limited liability company. Also, I didn't mention this because it is a little bit technical, but you can also have a joint venture with the manufacturers of that product, where you enter into some arrangement, some agreement that is governed by what we call a joint venture agreement as how you guys operate, and you can push forward your products. You list what kind of benefits you want, you list what you're going to do, and that company who manufactures that product will also list what they can provide. And combined, you guys can operate under the clause of a joint venture arrangement. So there are several types, but in your situation, I would ensure that we don't start businesses with only one product, because people get interested in this product for now. It's like a fad, and then they get disinterested when a new and an innovative one comes on board. So I would say to you, if you're going to start a business, going to register any business, whether it be a sole trader or a limited liability, always think of adding scalability. Always think of adding in diversity, the number of products and services that you offer. That's how you grow. So I would recommend that you look on complements to that product that you have and other services that you can link to that product in order to make sure that even if the taste of your customers change, you're able to still make money and be a going concern and for your continuity.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. There is no other question. We will continue to discuss taxes. Okay, I see another question.
Another question, yeah.
Yeah, should online businesses be registered? Yes, absolutely yes. Remember, your online business is just a means of how you distribute or serve your clients. Your being online is just a medium of how you distribute or your channel of getting your product and service to this particular customer base. Remember, you're replacing a physical location with an online, a global, and an ever-increasing atmosphere, it doesn't mean that what you're selling and what you're distributing and going, it doesn't need to be registered. Yes, online business need to be registered. It's just that what you're going to put on the registration address, you may want to use your home address or some address that you know that you will always have access to. But you're going to always register your online businesses. All right. Okay, we will put somebody asking for contact information. We will put email address as to how we can get in contact with me for further clarifications. All right, so let's move on to I see Anne-Marie Collins asking to remind her of the fee. When, why? I'm not certain of the question. I think you're talking about the different fees to register a limited liability company. I know a limited liability company is $24,000 to register, but there are several different fees, and I would not necessarily be able to go through all the fees. But certainly for registering a limited liability company, I think it's $24,000, and for sole trade and partnership, it is less than that.
Mr. There's a question that was sent directly to me.
Yes.
By Denise Dawson. She wants to know if a business is currently registered as a partnership, can it be changed to limited liability?
Okay, so you can change between structures, but what really happens in intuitive sense is that you dissolve one and start another one. Currently, they don't allow it like a switch, as all we will call it. We switch from one form to the other form. It's really, you would have to dissolve the partnership in technical terms and apply or fill out the form for a limited liability company. And I think somebody's asking if there is a fee for closing. I think there is after 3 years, I think you can renew your partnership after 3 years. I'm not sure if there's a fee to close, but I know there's a documentation. And usually the companies registered Jamaica, for every documentation that you serve, there is an administrative work that goes on the back end. So I'm assuming that there might be a fee. I would have to research the exact fee for that, but it should be minimal for closing the various partnerships. All right, so we know the famous scripture that when the Pharisees came to Jesus and asking about all of these wonderful things, they look at the coin, which faces see on it all those wonderful things. He said to them, give to Caesar what is due unto Caesar, and give unto the Lord what is the Lord. So at the end of the day, what he's basically trying to say, if the law of the land is for you to pay taxes, then we as people of God should pay taxes. So the next few sections, I want to speak about taxes and associated taxes that you may pay for the various business structures. GCT. Now, if you are eligible to pay GCT and you've applied to collect GCT and pay GCT, then you have to do that filing. I think it's a monthly basis. And then there is some sort of recalibration at the end to make sure that you are within line with what you've done. Now, there's a threshold of 10 million. So if you do revenue that is under 10 million, I don't think you're going to pay GCT. If it's over 10 million, then you pay GCT. However, the general rate of GCT is 15%, but there are different rates applied to different goods. There are some zero-rated goods. Of course, we know that was passed in the budget just to help with the standard of living of people across Jamaica. So there are different rates. There's an income tax that you ought to pay as well, but there's a threshold of, I think, $1 $1,596. That was raised, I think, in the last few years. Now, how does this apply? This applies to the sole traders, that your first $1,596 will not be taxed at your income tax level. And then for the partnerships as well, it will not be taxed at that level. Everybody working within a corporation also have that threshold. So they'll not be paying that tax up to that level. But individuals are supposed to file their tax return by March 15. Now, corporations pay those not regulated companies, they pay 25% corporation tax. Remember, I said to you in a limited liability, it creates almost like a double taxation effect, where the corporation is a separate legal entity and they pay corporation tax. And then when your money, you calculate your money through dividend or what, or salary or stuff like that, you then pay another tax. Now, for companies who are regulated, such as the Bank of Jamaica, financial companies, and those companies, they pay 33.33% in corporation tax. Now, there are other ways and means of being tax efficient, but when we discuss accounting and accounting positives and negatives and stuff that we can do, and the projections around our business, then we will discuss some of those legally available things for us to be tax efficient. And here I will pause for questions.
Okay.
Any questions?
There was a question in the chat earlier. Moment, let me find it back. It was directed to you.
Yes.
Computer giving me some issues.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Let me know.
Trying to find it. It's from Latoya Vasquez. She said, if a partner in a limited liability incurs a debt, will the other partners be impacted?
Oh, if a partner in a, she means shareholder?
Maybe.
Because remember,
maybe what you type.
Yeah. So Latoya, I think you meant shareholder in the limited liability company incurs a debt. Will the other shareholders be impacted? And the answer is no, because remember, the limited liability company is separate from the individual shareholders. If you're asking in a partnership agreement that one of the partners incur a debt outside, that they did some sort of business and they incur a debt, and you're then asking if that debt that they incur outside of the partnership, would the other partners be affected? You have to remember now that whatever ownership asset that they have, persons have an ability to make a charge on those assets that they have. So what happens is that debt that they have, the person may say, you know what, I want to put a charge on all the interest or wealth or income that that person has. So that in that case, then the wealth may technically, well, the debt may technically be affected, but not the partnership in its truest sense. But whatever share ownership that the person has, there are ways for you to say, okay, the person is a partnership arrangement over here. They have a share of profit. How can we get access to those kind of monies? And they may be able to get access to those kind of monies. The same way in a corporation, if somebody owes a debt personally, just like anybody, the shares in that limited liability company may act as wealth. But remember, the shareholder agreement may stipulate how those shares can be disposed of, which may ensure that that person is able to deal with it a whole lot different. And remember that some of the times, even it don't have to be like debt. It could be like a marriage. Let's say a marriage is being going to marital problems, and they decide to take a divorce. and the wife or the husband knows that the other partner in the marriage has the share ownership in this arrangement, then how the shareholder agreement deals with that situation will determine how they are liable or access to the funds of the corporation. And many shareholders agreement will have that the shares cannot be used to settle any of these conflicts. So what they may do is they may buy the shares, if they so wish, from the shareholder that has this marital problem or any other problem, and they can use that now and settle whatever debt they have. But the operations of running the limited liability company is not going to be affected. If they have it in a shareholder agreement, that's how they deal with it. And that is why I'm saying to you, when you're setting up your business structures or form of your business, it's very important to ensure that you speak with the professionals to ensure that you can weather whatever challenges that come. And that's why I like to call it the steel in the concrete structure. Because when that storm come off a marital divorce, or the storm come off one person, one director or shareholder did not manage their finances good, and persons are making call on all the assets that they have, it is that steel is going to withstand those kind of challenges, those weather, those storm, those hurricane. It is how you have structured that structure. You have steel in that concrete to withstand some of those things, which is why it's so important that I took the time out and say we need to discuss it, because it forms that basis for you to have sustainable growth and an improvement in your business.
Okay, I have two other questions as well. This is from Anne-Marie Collins. Was sent directly to me. So she wants to know the fees associated with a sole trader who has changed their business address.
Okay. Let me
not seen that in the presentation, but I don't know if you have it separate and apart.
Oh, if it's not in the presentation, I'd have to double check that. I don't want to tell them any wrong fee. But just remember that the company's office have a lot of information on their website, and the personnel are helpful. I know the chief there, and she's quite helpful. So you can always call and ask them, and they would provide you with all the different fees. I don't think it's a lot of money, but I don't want to quote the figure without having the exact. Are there any other questions? Was this helpful though? Because I want it to be helpful, that you have the business idea now you can decide what business form you want to take, so that we can move forward. And next week we're going to discuss business plan. And when you have your business plan and strategy, that's the next step for you to move forward. Once you have a solid business plan, a solid structure, form of structure, solid business idea, then you're on the way to making enormous wealth.
Okay, so Mr. There's another question from Anne-Marie. Yes. She wanted to know, if you're a sole trader, how do you apply for a GCT certification?
GCT?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not certain if the sole trader can collect GCT. And I'm not certain if the sole trader can collect GCT. I'm not certain. And even if because you have some consultants that operate at as a consultant, like a sole trader and a consultant. Sometimes they're invoiced their GCT amount, but you have to apply, just like any normal corporation will apply for the GCT. You'd have to apply to collect GCT. And like I said, your revenues will have to be over $10 million for you to start paying our GCT and for you to be applicable to you. So I think the sole trader can collect GCT by applying. There's a form that you fill out, just like the normal corporation would. There's a form for you to fill out, and then you're able to, once they have once I've gone through that form and you are earning over $10 million, then I think you can pay GCT. I think it's the same structure and same form that you can do that. Because I know consultants who are one-man shop that they do charge GCT. But you have to be careful that when somebody's paying GCT, they must have a GCT registered number on their invoice. A lot of persons charge GCT and they're not officially registered to collect GCT. How you know that is when you look on the invoice form, there needs to be a GCT number on that form. So it's not just willy-nilly collecting GCT. There has to be an application to the necessary government agencies for you to get it. And then once you get it and you can prove that you're getting over $10 million, that is when you're able to collect and you put that GCT number on the invoice. Then you can charge GCT associated with it. Are there any other
Yes, there's a question here from, I don't know why they're direct messaging me, but they are. Tiana wants to know if there are any grants available to help with business, to starting business.
Yes, there are several grants that are available. DBJ, you can check DBJ website. They have a lot of grants on there. And then there are other government agencies that, depending on the field that you want to get into, they too have grants. So I know the agriculture, and I know tourism, they have a few grants as well that was available, are made available to people who want to start businesses. But DBJ has, and that's DBJ is the Development Bank of Jamaica. They can go on the website and you can see some of those grants that they offer.
Okay, so the other question I'm seeing is really your contact number, your contact information that they are seeking.
All right, I will just put it put my email in the chat.
I think this person came in late. They wanted to find out if they should register before they start their business, and you had said yes earlier. I think that person came in late.
They go again?
This person was asking if they need to register the business before they start. So earlier you had said yes.
Oh, you ought to register your business before you start official operating, because if you're operating your business and you're not registered, then you're doing so illegally. No, I know there's a rule of thumb that you must test the concept, prove the concept of your business, meaning that, let's just say I want to sell phones, but I need to know if there's a great demand for selling phones. What I would say to you is that once you decide to do it commercially and do it as a business, then you have to register. There are ways and means of proving a concept without wholesale selling phones. Don't drive off with your car and selling phones at the back of your car, selling 100 phones and stuff like that. And you do it week in, week out. But there are ways for you to test if selling phones is a lucrative business and can work. So you can prove the concept of that particular business without doing so illegally. And then you register your business and then you can officially start. But do not operate or be in business for 3, 4, 5 months without registering, because that is illegal. Oh, I've seen persons here having a discussion around the 3% versus the GCT. Like I said, sole trader can collect GCT, just that you have to make the necessary application. Somebody asked what DBJ means. It's a Development Bank of Jamaica. So you can Google the website and just type in Development Bank of Jamaica, and then you're able to go through the different tabs and to see what offerings they have as grant.
Are you seeing the question from Mikhail?
Mikhail is asking,
Yes.
when would be a safe period to test your concept? I would say, Mikhail, after you have done your solid business plan, you have your strategies and marketing, you in those development stages, you can start to test your product, or service, but when you have the solid plan of how you plan to push it forward, I would say you can test it at that point in time, or do a second round test at that point in time, because after all of that, that's when you're going to go live. That's when you're going to register your company and go live. So you may want to ensure that what you have put down in your plan and strategy actually makes sense and actually will work. You can do a pre-test, but I would say do a second round when you have that solid plan and strategy in place, and at least some amount of feasibility study that's being done. Next week, we will discuss the different sections of the business plan, and you will see what I'm referring to when I say feasibility study and all of those other stuff. I see Kemar has his hands up. Kemar, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Kemar?
Great night, everyone.
Great night.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing you perfectly.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you perfectly. Go
Yes,
ahead, sir.
All right. So my question is, you said that the threshold is $10 million to start paying the GCT tax, right? But
Yes.
Is it the $10 million are the overall sales, or is it profit? Which is it?
Sales, revenue, your sales. Your revenue, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
In fact, a couple of years ago, it was 3 million. They had increased it to 10 million. And that was in a bid to, along with the government, in order to boost business productivity and boost business sustainability, that increased it from 3 to 10 million.
Okay, I remember when it was 3 and then it went to 10. But
yes.
now that I said it, no, I just wonder which one it is, if it's overall sales or it's profit, but I just got an answer. So thank you very much.
Yeah, man, no problem, no problem. That's what we're here for. All right. If there are no other questions, I want to thank you for being attentive, for being here, because I know it's a sacrifice. But I hope that whatever we have shared, it would help you on your way to finish building this structure, this house. And when we're finished, we're going to be increasing wealth and increasing in our development and fulfilling God's purpose. Now we're going to close, but we're going to close in prayer. So I'm going to ask my co-host to close us off in prayer, to wish this beautiful, beautiful people of God all the blessings and all the good fortunes going forward as we embark on this journey.
Okay. Great evening again, everyone. Let us pray. Most righteous, eternal Father, Lord Jesus, we just want to thank you for tonight. We thank you, oh God, that we were able, oh God, to learn some things new and also to just reinforce knowledge that we already had. We thank you, oh God, that the presenter was clear and very informative. And so, Lord, we just pray, oh God, that you cover him and his family. You cover all of us and our families, mighty God, because even though this might not be a religious setting, we know, oh God, that the enemy has his tricks and schemes to infiltrate himself in anything that we do together. So, Lord Jesus, we pray that any backlash, oh God, of the enemy, we will just ask that you destroy them, that you block them in the mighty name of Jesus. I pray, oh God, that you will continue to guide and protect us. Even now we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. See you next week.